Austria's capital, Vienna, is known for imperial splendor and tradition and innovation. It's where Sigmund Freud invented psychoanalysis, fundamentally changing the way we view ourselves. Come with us on a tour of Vienna in Freud's footsteps to learn more about his revolutionary ideas. Accompanying us on our tour is Freud expert and Vienna specialist Claudia Muchitsch. We meet her at Sigmund Freud's former home. He was born in the small town of Przybor in what is now the Czech Republic, but he spent most of his life in Vienna.
We are now in Vienna's 9th district, in Berggasse 19, a very famous address because Freud, Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, lived here for 47 years of his life.
Berggasse 19. Today it's a museum and something of a pilgrimage site for visitors from all over the world.
Freud fue uno de los grandes pensadores del siglo XX y yo personalmente estudié psicología, estudié muchísimos de sus libros y poder ver dónde los escribió es una gran experiencia.
Yo soy uruguayo, soy psicólogo, la formación básica, la base de la formación en psicología de grado en Uruguay es freudiana, por lo cual para mí es un sueño poder conocer acá, que es un referente.
Well, it's quite helpful because it showed us a new way of analysing people and finding out more about them in a way that nobody had ever done before.
I come from Hong Kong, China. Adore Freud Sigmund, and I very adore his consciousness theory.
We'll take a closer look at the museum later, but first a quick stop at the museum shop before we set off on our tour of Freud's Vienna. It's a paradise for Freud fans. The Vienna we know today, with its magnificent historical buildings, came into being during the analyst's youth in the late 19th century. Claudia takes us to the famous Ringstrasse, part of the UNESCO-listed historic centre of Vienna.
We are standing in between the big theatre, the Burgtheater, and on the other side of the street, our city hall. All this did not exist when Freud arrived here. That means basically that Freud, when he grew up here in Vienna, for most part of his life, he walked through one big construction site.
Not far from the centre lies the Vienna General Hospital, with a history spanning over 3 centuries. It feels as though time has stood still here, and it's where the young Dr. Sigmund Freud began his career.
When he started working here in the General Hospital, he worked in the psychiatric ward, and there he got hooked. Because there he saw how patients were treated in the 19th century, with electroshocks, ice-cold baths, straitjackets, and so on. And here is where his way towards psychoanalysis really started.
The Vienna General Hospital complex includes the so-called Narrenturm or Fool's Tower, Vienna's first psychiatric clinic, where Freud developed his groundbreaking ideas.
One of the most important steps was to see that there are illnesses, that there are problems, there are symptoms that have nothing to do with the body itself. They can show themselves on the body, but they are here in the brain, in the mind.
You can access the grounds for free and see the hospital from the outside. In Vienna's city centre, you'll also find the university, one of the largest in Europe. Freud worked here as a professor of neurology. A bust commemorates him, but Freud wasn't very passionate about teaching.
He only held one lecture per week here, and that was on Saturdays between 7 and 8 in the evening. He wanted and enjoyed to be a professor at the university, like the title, so he was typically Viennese, but he didn't like the lectures. So he put them into a corner where he hoped that not too many students would come.
Now we return to Freud's longtime home and place of work, Berggasse. The Sigmund Freud Museum has been here since 1971. And just like Freud's patients 100 years ago, you can go up to the first floor. The chestnut tree was already standing in the courtyard back then. We ring the bell as they did in the past, the doors open, and we find ourselves in the middle of Dr. Freud's historic practice. The reception room. Today it's often visited by students from around the world. It's the only room that still contains Freud's original furniture, and it's where his patients used to wait for their appointments. We have an appointment with the director of the museum. What makes Freud's idea so groundbreaking?
Freud hat mit seiner Forschung des menschlichen Unbewussten den Menschen eine neue Selbstsicht eröffnet und festgestellt, dass die Menschen nicht nach ihrem freien Willen handeln, sondern das Unbewusste auch ihre Entscheidungen mit beeinflusst.
The museum is popular with younger visitors. It consists of the Freud family's private rooms and the practice where Freud first applied his own method, psychoanalysis. And Yofi, the dog, was always there too. During a session, the doctor would sit behind the patient without making eye contact, as the patient laid on the iconic Freudian couch.
You really have to be able in psychoanalysis to engage into very deep, almost uncomfortable topics that trouble yourself. And I think if you wouldn't be lying down on the sofa, you really wouldn't be able to focus all your attention inwards. So this lying down also has the meaning of letting everything else go, really resting in a way.
Today, there's just an empty space where Freud's famous couch once was. In 1938, after the Nazis seized power in Austria, Dr. Freud, who was Jewish, fled to London with his family, taking almost everything with him, even his couch. Berggasse is located in the middle of the Servitenviertel district. Then as now, it's one of Vienna's most desirable neighborhoods.
We are here actually just around the corner of Sigmund Freud's place of Berggasse 19. The area here was more or less his home area, his Grätzl, as we would say in Vienna. It's a beautiful area built around a Baroque church, the Servitenkirche, and it was already in Freud times a very upper middle class area.
Traces of Jewish life can still be found in the Servitenviertel district, like the 16th century Jewish cemetery in Seegasse. Freud's mother used to go to the synagogue here. Long neglected, it's currently being restored. There's a memorial on Servitenplatz for the Jews deported from this area with their names and keys to their abandoned apartments. Café Landtmann was once the meeting place of Vienna's upper class and now a hotspot for tourists. It was also Freud's favourite coffee house. He visited regularly and likely ate a popular Viennese cake.
Sigmund Freud was a real Viennese. He loved to go to coffee houses. Probably he would have ordered a layer cake, which exists in Vienna in different variations.
Today, the classic Viennese layer cake is sometimes used as a model for Freud's theory of the human psyche. Like the layers of the cake, the ego, superego and id sit on top of each other and influence each other.
The id is the archaic part in ourselves. The id wants to be fulfilled, it's strong, it's powerful. But usually the ego and the superego, they take care that those powerful, mighty wishes of the id don't come to the surface.
This sweet metaphor brings our Freud tour of Vienna, one of Europe's most exciting cities, to an end. Whose footsteps should we follow next? Let us know in the comments.